This is probably one of the most important news that I can help share out. This is by Forbes breaking news about 2 hours ago. And I'm going to give some different perspectives in this. Um, they're not my opinion, just food for thought. But I really believe Congress is asking for our help. Our country is at stake here. Now, there's a movement out there against police. It's not really against police, it's against the policies that police have to uphold. People are tired of extortion. People are tired, and that's why they're voting the Democrat. That's what I feel. People are voting for Democrats because Democrats want to defund the police. The real problem is with our people at our lower levels that make all these rules in the name of safety. Let's find this, let's find that. I really, truly believe that we need to get to a republic country back the way we used to be. If there was no victim, there was no crime. I don't believe that the American people want really what's going on right now. I don't. I would like to see change on both sides. We have a Congress that is divided. We have the Democrats, they're trying to tear this country down. I mean, look at all the people that are coming into this country, the illegal immigrants. They're coming in and they're Joe Biden's new voters because the American people are fed up with what's going on. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let this play out, and I may stop it here and there and give my opinion. All right, here we go.
Week. The Democrat leader of the Senate still plans on halting the process to stop an impeachment trial. Make no mistake about it, a vote to block the impeachment trial, Secretary Mayorkas, is a vote to keep our borders open. A vote to block the impeachment trial is a vote to tell Laken Riley's family that we don't care. It's a vote that tells 250,000 Americans who've lost a loved one to fentanyl poisoning that we don't care. I think it's significant that it would only take 2 Democrats to deny tabling this process in order to proceed with an impeachment trial. But we certainly don't think that's going to be the case. Why? Because this issue is so toxic to Senate Democrats, to House Democrats, and to Joe Biden that they do not want this to be the issue of the day. But my hope is that the good people of Montana and Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, that they hold their senators accountable this November.
I want to stop that right there. What he means by hold accountable is that right now the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. The House of Representatives are controlled by the Republicans. Right now, we're in a checkmate. Our forefathers built our Constitution and gave we the people, you, me, the people, the right to steer this country in the direction it needs to be steered. This is by recall. This is by your vote. What this man has just asked is he needs your help to remove the filibuster that's in the Senate. That's the only way there's going to be an impeachment. That's the only way there's going to be change. Or this country, in my opinion, is doomed. All right, let's continue on.
One thing clear before I turn it over to my colleagues. Tabling this impeachment articles is a nuclear option. In our estimation, this is a nuclear option, and it will necessitate some type of nuclear retaliations, much as when Harry Reid went nuclear in 2013 to get his judges moving forward, invoking the nuclear option. It came back to bite them in the form of Neil Gorsuch in 2017. I look forward to my colleagues prosecuting this case on behalf of the American people and sharing why we need to go forward with this impeachment trial of Secretary Mayorkas. So unless, I think Senator Kennedy's the first one here. John, go ahead.
I'm next.
Yeah, we got the first two on here, so you're
Okay.
sorry.
A charitable interpretation of what Senator Schumer is planning to do does not exist. It doesn't. He is going to either make a motion to table or to dismiss the work done by the U.S. House of Representatives.
That's what I mean. The Senate is
In
held
our
by
200+
Democrats.
year history, we have had
They will stop the impeachment.
21 public officials impeached by the United States House of Representatives. We in the Senate have held trials in all but 3. In 3 instances, we dismissed the charges because the officials resigned. The other incident, we dismissed the charges because it involved a senator, and we did not believe we had the authority to hold an impeachment of a senator. Now, those are the facts. I fully expect Senator Schumer to try to muddy up the water, to try to make it look deep. But this is really very simple. We're either going to follow Senate custom, Senate rules, and Senate history, or we are not. And if he chooses, and if he may have the votes to do it, but if he chooses to...
If your power bill...
Okay, folks. This is crazy. What you're seeing is just nuts. It's we got to stand up. We got to take control of our country, and the only way we're going to do that is by getting out and voting out these criminals. In my opinion, Chuck Schumer is a criminal. If you've been watching everything, I'm saying the whole Democratic Congress, if you've been watching the Congress for the last 3 years, as I have, you can see what they've been doing. They have literally been blocking everything that Congress has been trying to do. All right, let's continue on.
As if it were just spam in the Democrats' inbox. It'll be further evidence that under this administration, the Senate has been rotting from within.
They fought everything.
Rotting from within.
They haven't worked at all
under this administration
with the other side of the other party. We have a divided country.
The leadership just
and our divided country is because of Republicans and Democrats.
The budget bill, the omnibus in 2, and make it 2 mini bills, but still does the same thing. This is just one more step. I mean, what are we here for? Impeaching a public official by the United States House of Representatives after months and months and months of investigation and witnesses, and then taking a vote, is one of the most solemn acts that the House can do.
And the House did that. They voted for impeachment.
And Senator Schumer is just going to dismiss that?
And now it goes to the Senate.
Not even hold a trial?
And Schumer and his party will dismiss it because they control the Senate.
Isn't that special? And every one of you here know that if Republicans were doing the same thing, you would be catatonic and foaming at the mouth. And that's what Chuck's doing. And it is wrong. And we're going to do everything we can to stop it. Now, originally, Senator Schumer had planned to do this on a Thursday when everybody is trying to get back to their districts. Isn't that special? Wonder why he picked a Thursday. We had asked, and I understand the speaker, I understand it's public now, the speaker, we asked him to delay sending over the article.
They're talking about Mike
until
Johnson.
Monday, to at least give us a full week. We'll see if Senator Schumer honors the extra time. This is unconscionable, people. This ranks right up there.
I want to stop this a minute. I don't know how many people really know the history of the United States of America Republic versus the United States of America Corporation. Right now, we have what's called the United States of America Corporation running our country. This is fact. Congress has never ratified the corporation. This is fact. You know, the Democratic Party is a party of slavery. They enact rules, they enact laws, policies, and everything they can to keep you as an American citizen from being able to survive by pulling you over, giving you tickets where there's been no victim, and make you pay a fine. There's a movement of people that are out there doing police audits, police watch, trying to inform the American people of your rights. And these people go to jail. It's your democratic cities where most of this stuff is happening. And people are being arrested. There's extortion. The history on the United States of America Republic, there was a takeover on Christmas, and they did a vote, and they took over the United States of America Republic, and soon after that, the United States Federal People's Reserve, which is now called the United States of America Corporation and the United States of America Reserve, Federal Reserve, which is a private corporation. Just wanted to bring that point out.
With getting rid of the filibuster. We're either going to have a United States Senate as set up by our founders or we're not. And that's what's going on here.
We all know that Chuck Schumer is playing politics with this. He has members that are very likely going to lose their seats, and he does not want them to have to take a vote on this. He also knows that the border and the lack of border security is the number one issue with the American people. I hear it in Tennessee every day.
I agree.
So Chuck Schumer is trying to be too cute by half and devise a way to not have a trial. Now, here's what he had to say in 2019, prior to the impeachment of President Trump. He said, and I'm going to quote him, "We would do well to remember our constitutional duty to act as judges and jurors in a potential trial," end quote. So he fully realizes that this is our constitutional duty. It is ascribed.
What is she basically is saying is they've taken Trump, actually, I believe twice. Quote me, I may be wrong. But I know at least once they've had impeachment against Donald J. Trump. And the impeachment found him not guilty. And Schumer, he's going to fight this all the way. And that's basically what she's saying, is that Schumer's going to filibuster it in the Senate and stop this. So, you know, if House Republicans and the House of Congress can't do anything, it's up to us, we the people. And this is my whole point of bringing this up. We the people need to take charge. You need to pay attention. Watch your Congress in Congress and your House of Representatives in representing you. And you need to act accordingly. We've had too many people in this country that are getting in, and people aren't paying attention, and they're taking over our country. They're taking over our rights. Our rights are being removed. This is very important, folks. Please get involved.
To us to take up these articles, to hold a trial. But he is so power hungry, the only thing he can focus on is the November elections. And what he is willing to do is toss the Constitution aside so that he can protect some of his members. It is imperative that we take the information from the House. It is imperative that we hold a trial of Secretary Mayorkas, who has neglected his duty. Think about it. We have a Homeland Security Secretary that does not believe in securing the homeland.
And Schumer will stop it. You watch.
A moment ago, Senator Kennedy referred to this as akin to the nuclear option. This is certainly the most violent act undertaken at the United States Senate, violent against the institution of the Senate and its time-honored traditions.
Why do they keep using the word nuclear, folks? I want you to think about it. What is all Americans afraid of? A nuclear attack? Well, they're using the word nuclear because we are being attacked. We're being attacked internally. That's why they're using that word nuclear. All right, let's proceed.
It's November of 2013 when Harry Reid deployed the nuclear option on the executive calendar filibuster. In a sense, this is even more serious. On the one hand, we deal more frequently on a day-to-day basis with the filibuster. But on the other hand, in this respect, this effort to nuke our traditions is even more serious here because unlike the filibuster, which is rooted in tradition in our rules,
the filibuster is the
rooted
Senate.
In the Constitution. Article 1 gives the House the sole power to impeach and gives the Senate the power and the duty to conduct trials of impeached officials. There have been 21 sets of articles of impeachment passed by the House of Representatives in the history of our republic. And
actually, the history of the corporation.
17 out of those 21 cases where the Senate conducted a trial, and those proceedings culminated in a verdict of guilty or not guilty. In the remaining 4 cases, the Senate didn't conduct a trial and didn't reach a verdict of guilty or not guilty, but only because between the time when the House adopted the articles and it reached or not reached the Senate, the person holding the office had either died or left office, thus mooting the case and obviating the need for a trial. There's no plausible justification for invoking any of those historical antecedents here, as Secretary Mayorkas is very much alive and very much still the Secretary of Homeland Security. So in that material respect, what they're nuking here is not just a Senate precedent or a Senate rule, but a provision of the Constitution and a time-honored duty in the United States Senate to do this. They are nuking a provision of the Constitution.
The 14th Amendment.
So separate and apart from how you feel about Secretary
They're going to stop it.
And his performance of his duties.
That's the impeachment.
Anyone who fancies him or herself an institutionalist, someone concerned about the Senate as an institution, should for that reason alone be willing to stand up to this form of legislative tyranny and say that we've got an obligation to do this. Now, on the merits of the thing, I would ask a series of questions that one way or another, regardless of where you stand on Secretary Mayorkas, need to be answered. So, for example, if you think that Secretary Mayorkas has not willfully, defiantly refused to enforce our laws, then let's hold a trial. If you disagree that he's allowed over 430,000 unaccompanied minor children in recent months into the United States, then let's hold a trial. If you think that he hasn't dangerously loosened restrictions and efforts to vet people entering our country from China, including a whole lot of military-aged men crossing our border, then let's hold a trial. If you believe that we haven't seen a dramatic increase in known terror suspects entering our southern border unlawfully, then let's hold a trial. Because a trial, after all, can either acquit or it can convict, which begs the question, why don't they want to hold a trial, given that we have a sworn duty consistent with our oath to uphold the Constitution, as we're all required to take under the Constitution, to conduct this trial? We've got...
They don't want to hold the trial because they know they'd get convicted if the Senate wasn't a filibuster. But that's the problem. The Senate is a filibuster. So there ain't going to be no trial. It won't be. Schumer, you watch Congress. Schumer will fight it all the way.
Nearly 2.5 centuries of precedent backing up that constitutional duty. Why depart from this now? Why depart from this now, even if, especially if, you think he's innocent of the impeachable offenses of which he's been accused? What does an innocent administration that has nothing to hide do?
Well, I think that's the question of the year. What does the administration do? We're talking about Biden's administration. We have got people that have entered into offices, into our Senate, into our representatives, in almost every aspect of government, and I'm talking from city level all the way up to the federal level, including our courts. We've got traitors in our country. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but Joe Biden is allowing these immigrants, these illegal immigrants, into our country. In fact, he's flying them in secretly because that's a vote in his pocket. People are getting your Social Security. The Social Security is going to go broke. I've heard anywhere from $500 to $7,000 they're spending on these immigrants, illegal immigrants, a month. It's unreal, folks. You're not going to have Social Security. You're not going to have a country if we allow this to happen. Wake up. It's in the writing. They're crying. This is Congress, House of Representatives, asking for your help to vote these people out. If you can recall them. Get them out. I'm tired of our country being ran by dictators.
It's not this. I'm very grateful to Speaker Johnson for his bold willingness to delay this. We don't want this to come over on the eve of the moment when members might be operating under the influence of jet fume intoxication. That was precisely the plan, and it's much better for us to do this at the beginning of a legislative week rather than toward the end of one, and I thank him for doing that. Senator Cruz?
We're witnessing a profound threat to our nation at the southern border. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and this entire administration has deliberately and willfully facilitated the criminal invasion of this country. It is a humanitarian crisis. It is a public safety crisis. It is a national security crisis. When Alejandro Mayorkas last testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee, I asked him how many migrants died last year crossing into this country. He said, I don't know. Of course he didn't. The number's 853, but this administration doesn't care about the body bags that their open borders are producing. When Joe Biden stood before Congress and gave the State of the Union address, he had planned in his remarks not to say a word about Laken Riley, the beautiful 22-year-old woman, the new nursing student in Georgia, murdered by an illegal alien Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas released into this country. When Biden gave his State of the Union address, he didn't mention the name Jeremy Caceres, the 2-year-old little boy murdered just miles away from here in Prince George's County, again by an illegal alien, that Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas released into this country. He also didn't mention the Haitian illegal immigrant that Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas flew from Haiti to America, released, who then violently raped a 15-year-old girl in Boston, Massachusetts, who was severely disabled. What we are witnessing is evil. It is wrong. That is why the House of Representatives impeached Alejandro Mayorkas, because he has aided and abetted the criminal invasion of this United States. And yet Chuck Schumer and the Democrats don't want to talk about it.
And that includes
Even
Joe
worse,
Biden
Chuck Schumer and the Democrats
and his
want
complete
to
administration.
defy their constitutional responsibility. 21 times in our nation's history, the House of Representatives has sent articles of impeachment over to the Senate. 21 times. Alejandro Mayorkas is only the second cabinet member ever to be impeached. The last time a cabinet member was impeached was 1876, 148 years ago. What Mayorkas has done is extraordinary, and its consequences are profound. Under the Constitution, the responsibilities of the Senate are simple and straightforward. They are to try this impeachment.
I want to stop that right there. That is in the Constitution. What I don't understand is we have law enforcement. Why can't the police, the FBI, the United States Marshal, whoever, arrest this person knowing and seeing the evidence that the House of Representatives committees have come up with and shown to the public? Why can't they just go in and arrest them? And this brings up another point. We need to get rid of immunity. Immunity in this country, there should be no immunity for anybody. If you kill somebody, you do wrong. If you take and hurt someone, they should be charged. They shouldn't be able to get away with it. And yet, not to put police down, because we need police. We need law enforcement. And there is a difference between police and law enforcement. Police are at your local level, and they support the policies that these Democrats make to take and get more money out of your pocket. Now, I support our local sheriff. Our sheriffs are who we vote for and their deputies. It's important to have law and order. All right, folks, let's
Chuck
go.
Schumer doesn't want to do that. Instead, he wants to move to table the entire thing. And there are three reasons Chuck Schumer wants to move to table the articles of impeachment. Reason number one, he does not want to allow the House managers to present the evidence
That's
of
a fact.
Alejandro Mayorkas and this administration's willful decision to aid and abet this criminal invasion of this country. The second reason Schumer wants to table the articles of impeachment is he does not want a trial. He does not want the American people to see the facts. When each of us lay out the facts of what's going on, no Democrat argues. There's not another side. They don't defend it and say, no, it's great. Don't worry about the people who are dying. Don't worry about the children being raped. Don't worry about the Mexican drug cartels making billions of dollars. The Democrats have no response. Their response is they count on the media not to report it. That's their entire strategy.
Yeah, you're forgetting a few other strategies, Mr. Ted Cruz, which I deeply respect. And the fact that we have administration that have placed themselves all throughout our country in all different levels of government, including the courts, including the Supreme Court, if you ask me. It's a takeover. Let me tell you, folks, there will be no more Social Security if we allow this to happen. There will be dictatorship in this country. You know, the Confederates, they lost the war, but the battle isn't over. The Democratic Party is the Confederates, and they stand for slavery. Do your history. The Republic is the Union was the Republic. And that's why they call themselves Republicans. Just wanted to point that out.
And the third reason Schumer wants to table these articles of impeachment is he does not want Senate Democrats, particularly those on the ballot in November, to vote guilty or not guilty, because it is indisputable Alejandro Mayorkas is guilty. And he's not just guilty of aiding and abetting the invasion that has happened for the last 3.5 years and every dead body that has resulted, but he's guilty tomorrow and the next day and the next day. He intends to continue facilitating and accelerating.
For those that haven't been watching, the evidence has been in the House of Representatives been shown to the American public. If you haven't been watching, what he's saying is true.
In 4 of them, the Senate either lacked jurisdiction because the individual was a senator and not an executive branch officer or judicial officer, or the person impeached was out of office and the case was mooted. In every single case where the individual impeached was still in office, in all 17, the Senate conducted a trial and adjudicated and came to a decision, guilty or not guilty. In 2013, Harry Reid nuked the filibuster. That did enormous damage to the institution of the United States Senate. In 2024, Chuck Schumer intends to nuke the impeachment clause of the United States Constitution. And make no mistake, if this precedent is set, it will not be the last time it is used. If and when Donald Trump wins in November, if, God forbid, Democrats have the House, they'll impeach him again.
I really don't think Trump will win.
And again and again.
I think all of Biden's new voters are going to outvote.
Is the Senate no longer has to try impeachments, but instead can hide behind procedural games. Anyone who cares about the security of this country should oppose what Schumer is doing and vote to convict Alejandro Mayorkas, and anyone that cares about the United States Senate and about the United States Constitution should demand that a trial be conducted. The American people deserve a trial, and I would encourage everyone in the media, ask yourself, why is Chuck Schumer so terrified to have a trial on what's happening on our southern border?
Because they're guilty, and I think Schumer should be investigated.
And the answer is he cannot defend it, and he desperately wants to keep it hidden and secret from the American people.
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator Marshall, for sponsoring this press conference. Thanks to all of you for coming here. And I want to thank the legal minds of our conference for kind of laying out the case of why we must hold a trial. I'm going to make the practical case. The reason Chuck Schumer wants to table it is this chart. I was with President Trump last week, traveling with him. Of course, we talked about the border. And I showed him this chart that I've been developing since I was chairman of Homeland Security, probably in 2014 and beyond, just updating it monthly. The disaster that was deferred action on childhood arrivals, which sparked this massive, under a Biden, invasion of our country. President Trump liked the chart, and he adapted it. He modified it for his own use. It's gotten more publicity as a result. I'm shocked. But one of the commentators, one of the political commentators, retweeted that chart and said, this will itself decide the election. That's why Senator Schumer does not want to hold this trial. I've made one additional modification. By the way, what I like about this chart and what I've tried to describe here is the cause and effect. Starting with DACA, the reinterpretation of the Flores decision, the fact that President Trump was faced with his own border crisis, but he fixed it. You'll notice his peak, a little under 5,000 people a day on average being encountered at the southern border. Within 12 months, he reduced that down to about 500 a day. Now, that was before Title 42. What I've added to the chart now is expulsions under Title 42. So even though single adults started increasing in about May of 2020,
they're talking about the chart showing the amount of illegal immigrants coming into our country. That's what the chart shows.
That was an incentive. That's the problem. the Biden administration, Democrats, they are incentivizing the invasion of this country. So more people started coming. But because of COVID, President Trump invoked Title 42. And he started expelling people. So you can see the incredibly small numbers of people under the Trump administration that President Trump allowed in this country. We had pretty well secured our border, setting up the next step of passing a functioning legal immigration system. I was working with Senator Lee and the Trump administration on it. We would have fixed these problems. But unfortunately, America made the wrong choice. They elected President Biden, and Democrats control the houses of Congress. And this is an important point.
Important point. He said the American people. What did he mean by that? I can tell you what he meant. When he says the American people, it means the American people who vote these dictators, these communists into our country.
Understand, Democrats, President Biden, want an open border. They caused this problem. We didn't need a law passed to have President Biden have the authority to close the border. President Trump, using existing law, closed the border. President Biden used that exact same authority, opened it up. So you can see the explosion from the end of the end of the Trump administration, where virtually we had the border closed, and then the explosion and the widening gap as President Biden allowed Title 42 to expire. But even without that, even using Title 42, they welcomed, they incentivized families, unaccompanied children, and subjected them to the depredations. Their open border policy facilitates the multi-billion-dollar business model of some of the most evil people on the planet. The human traffickers, the sex traffickers, the drug traffickers, poisoning our cities. That's what Biden and the Democrats, and this is important to note too, it's not just President Biden. This is Democrat policies. That's what must be defeated.
They are all sticking together and tearing down our country, folks.
Because he doesn't want the House managers to make the case, to explore exactly what happened, how their actions, how their policies are causing this invasion. They don't want to be held accountable. That's why a trial is imperative in the United States Senate, and why I so appreciate what Speaker Johnson apparently just announced, that he's going to delay delivery of these things so that Senator Schumer doesn't have Thursday at 1 o'clock to just snuff this thing out. So again, thank you, Senator Marshall. Thank you all, and Senator Schmidt.
Thank you. Politically speaking, if there were a Mount Rushmore of worst cabinet members in the history of our country, Secretary Mayorkas would be on that Mount Rushmore. He'd be one of the faces.
And I think Biden should too.
Really speaking, he's subverted the laws of the United States, and that's what this is all about. But before we get to that, we have to have a trial. The Constitution calls for it. In the history of this country, as you've heard here today, what Chuck Schumer is about to do has never happened. In a town that says things are unprecedented all the time, this actually is unprecedented. The idea that you would dismiss or table something that is part of our duties, when we raise our right hand, when we take this office, something that we're supposed to do. Chuck Schumer is willing to throw all of that away because he's afraid of a couple of news cycles. And we hear a lot about threats to democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one party in this country trying to throw a political rival off the ballot, throw him in jail for the rest of his life, end the filibuster, destroy the Senate, and end impeachment forever. That is what their game plan is. And so I would just simply ask, even my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, this is our job. This is our job, regardless of how you're going to vote. Because 200 years from now, people will look back, senators who we don't know their names and sitting in seats in that chamber, will look back to what happened in the next 7 days. And it will set a course for the rest of American history, because there's no going back. Once you break the seal here, there will be no impeachment trials ever again. And Chuck Schumer likes to say history is watching. And I would remind him, history is indeed watching Chuck Schumer. Do the right thing, hold the trial, let the chips fall where they may.
Thanks, Harry. I'm going to make one point. We'll open it up for questions. Several of us have pointed out that Senator Schumer is unleashing another nuclear weapon here. But can you imagine what the retaliation might be? Could you imagine a day and time where we have a Republican president, a Democrat-controlled House? They impeach the Republican president. They send it to a Republican-controlled Senate. And that Senate said, we're going to table it. I just think that Americans and the national media would lose their minds over it. But we're letting Chuck Schumer get by with it for whatever reason now. So let's do questions. I should go ahead.
Just confirming here, you guys, a couple of you have already said that Speaker Johnson has already agreed to delaying this. You heard directly from the Speaker because he tweeted 2 hours ago that they were sending them this week.
Yep.
Okay, so he's delayed this. If this is delayed to Monday, what then? How do you get a trial? How do you try to obstruct Schumer from dismissing this?
Well, remember,
Come up to the microphone, Mike, so they can record it better.
remember, once they deliver articles of impeachment, it triggers a whole different set of rules. The Senate has exactly 3 states of being: legislative calendar, executive calendar, and impeachment court calendar. The minute we receive the articles, we are convened, they read the articles, we get sworn in, and then we go about a process to negotiate the precise procedural metes and bounds of this particular impeachment proceeding. And in those, we make arguments. We're allowed to make, in theory, unlimited motions, subject to being ruled dilatory by the presiding officer, Patty Murray, in this instance, because the president's not on trial. And so we'll be making arguments and points of order in the
Biden
unfortunate
needs
event
to
that
be
they
on
decide
trial.
to proceed with this disastrous approach to nuke impeachment, at least nuke impeachment in all cases where the party in control
Democrat
of the
Party
majority of the
will
Senate
stop the
finds
impeachment.
itself in opposition
You watch.
to the impeachment. Remember, it has not been very long since we conducted 2 impeachment trials involving the 45th President of the United States, the first of which came over to us at a time when we Republicans were in control of the United States Senate. Think about it this way. Over time, you've seen the Senate gradually whittling away its own authority and with it, its own obligations. On the legislative calendar, we've seen the Senate and the House sadly transferring a disproportionate share of our lawmaking power over to unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats in the executive branch of government. On the executive calendar side, we've seen ourselves whittle down the number and the percentage, the portion of federal appointees, presidential appointees, subject to Senate confirmation. We'll now have a trifecta if we undertake this task, where we will have yet again narrowed down our constitutional duties. And that's shameful. But getting back to your question, this will be all about making those arguments, and we'll have more time to do them. Members will be less inclined to operate under jet fume intoxication on a Monday than they would on a Thursday.
Go ahead.
Yeah, short answer.
Well, folks, what do you think about this? I think this is the most important news that me on my channel can help get out. We need people to vote. We got to vote these criminals, these dictators out, these slave enforcers. We need to get them out of office. I don't know if I want to continue on watching this or not.
We're going to file points of order, but Senator Schumer can block those.
Yeah, but how long?
We'll have a lot of points of order because this is blatantly unconstitutional. But Senator Murray, the pro tem, will be in the chair, and she doesn't have to recognize us. That's entirely possible that Senator Schumer would tell her only to recognize him, and we wouldn't even have a chance to make a point of order.
So much democracy.
I mean, the Senate runs on unanimous consent, and moving forward, we may not be providing that consent.
Well, and let me say also, y'all can influence this. Why is Chuck Schumer trying desperately to defy the Constitution and not have a trial? Because he doesn't want the American people to hear the facts about what this administration has done and how many Americans have died as a result. And he believes, with the motion to table, he believes the press will be compliant. How many of you are going to write a story tomorrow that says Chuck Schumer and the Democrats defy 200 years of history and for the first time refuse to hold a trial on impeachment? I suspect there are not going to be many stories. Why is...
I will tell you, this is my story. Mr. Ted Cruz, this is why I'm documenting this. Because there are checks and balances in our country, and our forefathers saw this. And the most powerful check and balance there is we the people. We may have a Senate and a House of Representatives. They're fighting with one another. But we the people will have the final say in the vote only if we could keep our election integrity together. All right, folks. I hope I open your eyes. And God bless America. And I hope that things will turn out right for us, or we will have no more country. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And leave me your comments. Leave me your comments on this. I really like to see other points of view on what's going on. And we'll see you on the next one.